Hola, chicas. Welcome to Encuentras Your Voice podcast, championing Latina voices from ancestry to authenticity, creating a living archive of our diaspora, and celebrating the aha moments that inspired success that fuels our cultura. Each story gives voice to ancestors whose legacy was lost, silenced, or erased, and shares the journey of leaving behind those destructive expectations and embracing joyful determination in authenticity. By the end of the show, you'll have met your next best friend. I'm your host, Consuelo Crosby, here with you every Wednesday at a new time this year as we keep evolving into a greater version from when we started. With our global audience expanding, we have moved our drop time to midnight, or 12:01 a.m. on Wednesdays, here on the sunny California Pacific Coast. Loving you for being here today for the last of our January Amigas, sharing the new year, new you outlook and empowerment to move you beyond doubt and into confidence. Now, more than ever before, we're facing some incredibly difficult times that just hit too close to home, especially in the cultura. In these times of bullies acting badly, we must unite. Unite and act, for it's the courage to stand strong, united, that will make bullies run, knowing they cannot silence you. It's the whole reason I started this podcast almost 4 years ago, to hold space and amplify Latina voices in their own words, archiving the truth of ancestry and authenticity. This episode is remarkably timely in the midst of companies dismantling their DEI programs and guidelines, taking away the visibility that diverse entrepreneurs and employees need to succeed in a world that oppresses their voice and visibility. We don't need their platforms when we create our own to amplify and highlight the people they're trying to silence and ignore. But today, our guest infuses power, pride, and confidence so that we listeners can walk out into the world authentically and do exactly what others say we can't. All while not knowing her own full story before she was adopted at just a few weeks old from her birth country, Peru, until she hit her aha moment of wanting her tribe. And there starts her discovery journey. Heather Reese, Peruana, lawyer, Latina advocate, and plus-size runway model, is all about believing you are worthy of everything you want in life, regardless of the voices you hear from your past, your family, society, and regardless of people challenging you. You are worthy. From a mother who taught her to walk into a room like a white man, to the family friend attorney who brought her into court to see him in action, Heather has been surrounded by people who supported her vivacity, but none more than the Peruvian tribe of friends she has sought out, her ride or die group. Heather will inspire you to leave the burden of doubt behind. Go after anything you want fearlessly and love yourself at every stage, regardless of what is really happening in life. Self-love fuels the power within you, propels you to act, and is a constant, beautiful reminder that you are worthy. You're going to absolutely love Heather, so get comfy, lean in, and get ready to meet your next best amiga as she shares her journey from ancestry to authenticity. Welcome to Encuentras Your Voice podcast. I'm so glad you're here, Heather, with us, and really appreciate you sharing your time with us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing so great. I'm off work today, so doing as great as I can.
That's as good as it gets, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you have a very big journey, a very unique story, and we're going to get into all of it today. So we always start with asking our heritage stories of our guests because we love compiling this living archive of the diaspora. And we'd love if you would share yours.
Yeah, of course. So I am adopted from Lima, Peru. I was adopted in the 90s. I was a few weeks old, I want to say, when I was adopted.
Oh my gosh.
And I was adopted into a Jewish family out of Pennsylvania and Delaware. My mom is Jewish, and my dad was like a hippie from Humboldt County, pseudo-Catholic, Christian, whatever you want to call him, but very more spiritual and hippie. And yeah, that's pretty much the beginning of my journey.
That is a lot of cultures all mixed into a story that started so young, a few weeks old. I had no idea. So let's lean in. What was it like for you growing up? And you were in Pennsylvania at this time growing up?
I was in Delaware.
Delaware. Yeah, okay. So what was it like for you growing up? And what was the exposure of your culture growing up in this family in that area?
Yeah, so I went to a private Jewish school. So there were, I want to say, and I would be shocked if I'm wrong, but there were no other Latinas. There was 12 kids, the same 12 kids from kindergarten through 6th grade. Maybe one or here switched in and out.
Wow.
But I had never seen another Latina before in my life. My parents were always very open about us being adopted because I have a brother and a sister, and they're both adopted. And my sister's from Peru, but we don't have the same birth family. My brother is from Honduras. He's from Tegucigalpa, Honduras. And in our rooms growing up, they had maps of our countries. And then they had artwork from our country. And we all had a jewelry box. And I never remember if they did this for my brother. They might have not given him a jewelry box. He might have had something else. But me and my sister both had jewelry boxes from Peru. And inside of them was like money, change, pictures, coins. And then we also had like Peruvian toys growing up and blankets and like shoes that we would play dress up in. My family was very open about it. I don't ever remember them sitting us down and telling us, but it also was pretty obvious. Like my dad is 6'7" and a white, tall man. And my mom is like a short brunette, very pale. So, I mean, it was very obvious, especially like I'm the lightest out of the three children altogether. So it was very obvious that we weren't their blood children. Like it was never a thing that I think they talked about in depth. It was just something that like we knew, which I really appreciate. I really actually very much appreciate my mother doing that and my father doing that because they never made us feel ashamed of it. They never made us feel any different. It was just like a thing that we kind of brushed over, and I don't have a trauma story. There are so many adopted children who have trauma stories of when they found out that like their whole life was a lie. And like, I don't ever have that. Like I never experienced that because it was always an open and honest conversation, which I'm very appreciative. No other brown kids.
Yeah. Okay. But then are you clicking through thoughts in your head of, okay, there's no other brown kids, and are there any more adopted kids? Did that kind of thinking come through like as you were getting older in life?
You know, not really, because of the Jewish school that I was at, it was very small and color had never been a thing that I had seen. So it was never really a thing that I took into consideration or even noticed. Like if you would have asked me when I was 7 what I would have just said Jewish, right? Like there was never a context into me being like, oh, I'm Latina. And I really didn't really experience any other Latinas until I was like an adult. I didn't really experience knowing I was different either until I went to a public school in middle school where I don't remember. I think it was like my second day there. I was wearing a Jewish star necklace and somebody came up to me and they were like, you don't look Jewish. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, what do you mean? And they were like, and then they went on to spew some like anti-Semitic hate. But I was like,
wow,
what? And I remember going home to my mother and being like, don't I look Jewish? Like, I'm bar mitzvah, I can speak Hebrew. Like, what are you talking about? And she was like, you know, Jews have been persecuted. You're going to be strong. You're going to be tough. You're going to suck it up and kind of just like deal with what people are saying. But you might not look traditionally what people think are Jewish. And she's like, but I don't look traditionally Jewish. And that was like the smallest taste I had of it. But it was at such a young age. And I didn't ever experience it again until I was like in the professional space.
Wow, it's almost like the opposite story where people are saying, typically for Latinas, first gens, oh, you don't look Latina. you were getting a completely opposite. You were allowed to be Latina because everyone was focusing on your Jewish upbringing.
Yeah, no,
Oh, my
for sure.
goodness.
And that was middle school. Like I think I always talk to people about this. There's always been this weird dichotomy for me where I'm like, I'm never white enough and I'm never Hispanic enough. I'm never Latina enough because I don't speak Spanish. There's just always this weird thing when you are adopted and you're brought into these other faiths where like, you kind of are always trying to find your community and somehow you never fit. Somehow somebody is always like, well, wait, you don't belong here.
Oh, wicked. And yet you come across here today speaking visually in your social media so confident and so filled of self-love. That's where I really believe confidence comes from. So as you're traversing these challenges, barriers, like you don't belong here, what do you recall as your aha moment of, you know what, I do belong here? What was that like?
I think like my mom, she's such an interesting woman, but she is a very strong, outspoken woman. And she was in a space that women weren't in at her time. She was a computer scientist and she kind of always said to me and really instilled in us that, you know, you are going to make people upset. You're going to be a woman that makes waves. And you know, you're just gonna kind of own it. You're never gonna be afraid, never back down, and just push yourself through. She used to always say like, well, is the world ending, right? Like anytime, and I'd be like, well, no, it's not. And she's like, all right, well, then it doesn't matter. Like with the retrospect, isn't great. But I mean, back then it really did it. What it did for me was tell me that anything that comes my way, I'm gonna enter it with the same power and strength that I would do anything else. My mom also did always tell me to walk into a room like a man. And I think that really put into perspective a lot of things for me because even at a young age, I had always seen that society viewed men as these power players. And it was completely different in my home, right? Like my mom was the breadwinner. My mom was like very successful. My father wasn't not successful, but my mom was clearly the breadwinner. She went, you know, she had a graduate degree. She's all of these things. And it was like seeing a double-sided thing of something. Because I'm like, society tells me one thing, but my mom is telling me this other thing. And I'm seeing my mom be this like powerhouse businesswoman traveling, doing all of these crazy things. And I'm like, all right, well then, you know, I'm just going to walk with the confidence that she told me to walk with.
Oh gosh, that is so different, similar to mine, but so different. And that having a female mentor as your mother, right? You not having to go out and search and not being quieted by your mother, which is a big thing in the Latina culture. It's like, don't cause waves. Completely opposite from what you were brought up with. Don't cause waves. Don't speak out. Be gentle. Be accepting. That is very much part of the cultura. And you're free from that as a child. Growing up in this, she needs to run a camp, badass women upbringing.
Oh, there's so many other crazy things about my mom. I won't even tell you. I love her to death. But like, she is definitely there are give and takes in everything, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Like, my mom, in being so strong, was also a lot less probably affectionate than your mother was, right? Like she was definitely less of a maternal figure and more of a like patriarchal, which is weird that we use that phrasing for it. But like more of a strong figure than less of a soft figure. If something happened to me, like if I was sad, I would never have gone to my mom crying about it. Like that's probably the difference, is that I would never have been like, oh my gosh, mom, like this person is like bullying me, blah, 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 because it would have been like tough love, right? It would have been like, get it together. But in that same notion, you're right. It does make you a tough person. I've had so many soft women along the way, though, that have helped me, that have been amazing to me, that I've got to be able to see both sides. And my mom did do a phenomenal job. And, you know, when I got married the first time and I met my mother-in-law, who also adopted children, who raised her children very differently than I was raised. I said, wow, this is the softest woman I've ever met. She is the nicest woman. Like, I love her. Even to this day, she came with me to pick out my wedding dress for my wedding. And she's the sweetest angel of all time. Yeah, she did.
Wow.
We're best friends. Like, I honestly just got off the phone with her last night. She's when you meet somebody and you're 17 years old and they get to watch you grow up, there is such a strong connection. And I think also my mom was so strong, so tough, so busy. And because of that, I always had this kind of like mom complex where I'm looking for, a soft woman who is going to just like love me unconditionally. And I found that in her, when I met her, when I married into the family, it was just such a different level of, love I hadn't experienced.
You were walking in your authenticity already with that power. I understand that. I understand your story. It is beautiful that you had yourself open and searching, already knowing what you'd want to add to that. Yes, the strength from a woman is much more difficult to find, to have in your life, especially early on, than a maternal figure. But you knew what you wanted. You knew what you wanted to add to that. It's just still like, are you kidding me? May we all have ex-mother-in-laws that would even show up for... Oh my God. I definitely am a voodoo doll for my ex-mother-in-law still. So you are a lawyer. And
I am.
What brought you that inspiration? Where did that evolve from living in this very maternal household to what is perhaps still a rather patriarchal system, even though there are female lawyers? What was that?
Yeah, no. Okay. So I think for me, I'm very lucky. I'm very blessed. My parents knew a lot of people. I went to good schools, my best friend when I was in, my best friend now still, but my best friend when I was in middle school to high school, her dad was a lawyer. Her dad is a lawyer. And I remember seeing him like drive an Escalade and just like get off the phone and then get back on. And I was like, that's cool. Like, what does this man do? And I remember going with him when I was 14 to see my first arbitration in Philadelphia. And I got to see the way that he was able to tell a story, the way that he was able to make the story real and emotional for the arbitrators. And I was so moved by it. I remember being like, that's what I want to do. Because it was the way his client looked at him and the way the arbitrators looked at him. And he's not like a schmoozer. He wasn't like a BS man. It was just the ability to tell a story with factual things in a way that was emotionally compelling. And I said, I want to do that. And I remember I ended up moving in with my best friend. Her parents ended up becoming like my guardians for a short period of time when I was in high school. And I always call him my dad, but he was a great mentor. I would skip school to go to the law office. He had a law firm at the time. And he was always just so encouraging. And I remember him saying to me, like, the first time, he was like, you don't want to go to law school. And then when I was like, I do, and he was like, all right, then it is what it is. You're going to do it. And he got me my first internship at the district attorney's office in Philadelphia when I was in law school. And it was amazing. It was an amazing opportunity. I got to go in when there was a huge power shift change. And I got to experience a lot of that administration, which was just, everything was happening for the first time in the city.
Okay.
And it was very, very cool to see. And I was doing contempt for PFA violations. I was always begging to go to family court with the family court ADAs because it was the first time I got to experience people being grateful for the work that you were doing, right? Like, I remember going to court one time and somebody saying to me, like, I want you here at every listing. You make me feel safe. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And then I saw how much money teenagers get paid and the public sector gets paid. And I said, okay, well, that's not going to pay for my law school loans. So I ended up going into the private sector and I do personal injury now.
Oh my goodness, that is a journey. But again, given so much opportunity, just from the people you're around, who is in arbitration court at 14 to see what it's like? And the graciousness that the people around you know to expose you early to it so that you have eyes wide open. Like at 14, girls are typically like snarking about each other and what they're wearing and who's friends today with you and who's not.
I was probably doing that too.
Yeah, but you could take them to court.
I did. Yeah, no, that was the best thing is I think, I really was very blessed. My mentor is really an amazing guy, and he really did say, like, I mean, he wasn't always supportive of me going to law school, like I said, just because he this job is going to eat your life. But he really was very open, transparent, and always willing to take me places. Like, I got to see him get sworn in I think it was in DC when I was young too. Like, I got to go to all these amazing, cool things. I was really lucky.
But he must have loved it too, especially with the rest of the family not leaning into his career path.
I'm lucky because I was raised in a community, in a group where gatekeeping didn't happen, because I was around a whole bunch of people that were all in the same space, right? Mentorship was abundant. It wasn't hard for me to get. And that doesn't happen a lot of the times in the Latina community. And that's why when I became a lawyer and when I got more into leading into my Latina heritage, I said, I want to give back. I want to stop this gatekeeping, because what can I do to inspire the next Latina girl to go to law school, because I'm sick of only seeing white men around me.
Yeah. And that's usually that environment. It's a toxic environment. It's not embracing. And it's usually what drives us out, whether it's the STEM careers, medicine, law, you name it. It's usually what drives us out. So in that regard, what is something that you could share with the listeners who know what this is, who are maybe living it now? What can you tell them to feel more confident in it and just move through it? Beyond your mother saying the end of the world coming.
Yes.
What is a softer version of that?
I would say be bold. My big thing about life is like, listen, there are going to be people that aren't going to like you. I'll never forget. Somebody said to me when I was first a lawyer that I was all frosting and no cupcake. And I said, well, then I'm going to be the best effing frosting that there is. And there have been so many times where people have said, I don't think you can do that. I don't think you're that smart. I don't think this. And I've always said, like, don't let those naysayers take you down, because if you do, then you're letting them win and you're feeding into it. Also, I think as a Latina woman, you have an obligation to the next generation of girls to keep fighting. And maybe that's selfish of me to say, and maybe it's like, I'm putting my own mental health on the back burner somewhat sometimes, and that's certainly true. But so many women before me did that, and we have to change the narrative. We have to change the numbers. And the only way to do that is that some of us it's going to suck for some of us sometimes.
Yes.
You're going to have to push through it. And know that there's a group of people that want to support you. Like, I am not that rare, right? In the legal community, there are other Latina lawyers that are out there. They're just not visible. They're just not out on social media. They're just not in your face like I am. But, make a call to action. Put it on threads. Look for other people that are in your area, or even not in your area. Even if I'm nowhere near you, I'm happy to sit on a call. I'm happy to be there and listen, because been there, done that. I totally get it. And I'm not going to minimize your feelings. But I am going to say to you that this is a tough road. I'm not going to pretend it's not. I wish there was a law school class where somebody said, I want to show you what it's like to be a woman in law. And then let's add an extra thing. I want to show you what it's like to be a minority woman in law.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do that because no one would go. And because then people wouldn't be in law school. We wouldn't be there, right? So you kind of just have to tell yourself that you have the power within, and that your power is in not giving up.
Yeah. The power within. That is huge. And I love also how you say, don't hand over your power to them, because you still have it. And the whole point of them, this is bullying, is to try and get you to be submissive and give in and get out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was the first woman hired. I was 21, first woman hired in an engineering firm, 40 men and me. And I was 21 going, oh, but I'd come out of school being one of the only women. And, in some regard, I only knew man world anyway. I only had brothers. And my mom was a matriarch. She started the corporation for my dad to have a job in. So it's like you in the sense of, well, this isn't that atypical, but still it's not easy and it's not pretty. And you do go through a lot. Sexual harassment wasn't illegal when I was in it. Imagine that. There was no HR.
I've had so many people tell me, don't make waves.
Yeah.
Don't make people upset.
Okay, man.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't. And you know what it is I call people out on their behavior. And if it makes people uncomfortable, it makes them uncomfortable. The comments that they may have made me uncomfortable. So like we're both in the same boat now, right? And that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But I think there is a really big issue in law when it comes to people basically saying that this is a boys' club, and if you make waves, you're going to be screwed. And for me, like, I'm not going to sit here and say that's probably not the case. I'm sure I've made waves. I'm sure I've pissed people off. But I also think I care about being true to myself. And I think the right firm, the right place will be accepting of that and want that, right? Because the goal is to stop perpetuating that same old narrative. And the only way we can do that is by calling it out.
You really have to find your own tribe at that point, which is where you're at right now in finding your tribe. Because not coming from the Latina background, but knowing full well you are, this is where you're finding the love. Is that true?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that maybe my confidence and boldness has come from being raised in like a white home, right? Because I never had people tell me like, be quiet or don't talk too loud or don't make waves. Because my mom was willing to make waves. I have been able to meet amazing women now. And I have been able to find an amazing group of Latino women that I wish I had you earlier in life. Aww. Like, I wish I could have experienced this. And I have so many of them tell me the same thing as you say, right? Like, aren't you afraid? How are you so confident? Where does it come from? A lot of it's acting like a white man, acting like a person that isn't in a minority group, right?
Yes. And you are definitely moving forward with this self-love for your Latina identity. And also, like, you typically have this persona, making sure that you're doing it with everybody else as well. So tell us now on your social media, because I love this is what's happening right now. Give us your Instagram profile and lean into what you're doing for the Latinos right now.
Sure. So my Instagram is Heather_RXOXO. And so what I do is I started a showcase series on Instagram where I get to highlight different Latino, Latina, and Latinx businesses. And it's been amazing. I've worked with small brands. I've worked with big brands. And for me, what I always tell people is this was about creating visibility. I had looked around the legal community and I saw that there was almost nobody that looked like me. And I said, where else is this happening? And then I saw that it was across the board happening almost everywhere. You know, when I turned on the TV and I saw a doctor, I was seeing a white man. You know, when I had read books growing up, I'd only ever seen like kids that didn't look like me, right? And I said, what can I do to change whatever narrative that is out there? And I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to showcase them. I'm going to put them out there. I'm going to let you learn about them. You don't have to buy them. I never pretend to be a skincare expert or a makeup guru. You know, even when I showcase those items, I'm saying like, this to me is about visibility. This is to me about showing my community that we can buy from ourselves. We don't need to outsource. We truly don't. We can buy from our own people. We have a huge, huge purchasing power that we are underutilizing on ourselves and our own community. I mean, there's so many stats out there, I can't list them because I don't know them, that are showing that Latinas make a huge portion of it. And yet the money isn't going into ourselves. It's not going back into our own community. So how can I do that? And how can we do that? And that's how my series came to be. I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to want people, you know, when they think of soap, to not think of, you know, insert big box brand name soap. I want them to think of I want them to think of Naked Bar soap. When they think of makeup, I want them to think of Sace Cosmetics and Vive Cosmetics. I want you to see that our people are making stuff for our people and we can buy from ourselves.
I love that. Yes, I love that. Visibility, representation, stay within the comunidad. Because those data points are that the Latino community in the U.S. has a $3.2 trillion buying power, which is the buying power greater than most countries in the world. And of that, Latinas bring 1.7 trillion to the economy. 1.7 trillion, just as Latinas alone. I mean, yes, lean into that.
Right. Buy from us. Buy from our own people.
Buy from us. I think about this and it relies on visibility because where's the first go-to? Where does everyone want to be part of? Target. Why? They have trounced and taken back based on the big corporate mindset. Like, oh, maybe we can't celebrate Pride. That upsets everybody. It's like, why would you want to be associated with someone who's going to say, oh, we'll throw you under the bus? You know,
Right.
if it's not okay for the profit margin.
No, and I think that a lot. I want the company that is willing to stand by what they say. And even if it's ugly, even if it's something I don't agree with, for me, there's a level of respect for me, because I follow so many people. There are so many people that I don't align with, not businesses, but people that I don't align with. But if you're owning what you are and you're not hiding it, to me, that's a big thing. Now, if it comes to hatred, that's different. Just different ideals and views, but whatever, you can have whatever you want. But what I hate about certain companies and certain groups is you're trying to hide in corporate jargon or in saying that we want to make everybody happy. No, you can't. The reality is you can't make everyone happy. And that's my big thing about authenticity, as I always say, like, there are parts of me that make other people mad. There are parts of me that maybe people might say you shouldn't show the internet. Like, maybe you shouldn't have talked about your divorce on the internet. Maybe you shouldn't have cried on the internet. Maybe you shouldn't show yourself like sweating at the gym. And I think, no, why? Because I don't want to see that girl with all the airbrushed photos and everything where her life looks perfect, because that's just not realistic. That's not real. And that's not me. Like, there are crappy parts to everyone's life, and there are dark moments in everyone's history. It's just like, are you growing and are you progressing? And are you holding yourself accountable?
I love that piece, because really that's the value of social media right there, is showing other people that, bad stuff happens and we all go into this dark space every now and again. And that's when you need it most. That's when you need to reach out and not feel smaller than, but part of. And that's the power of the social media that you're presenting also as well, is like, this is my authentic self. If you're my friend, you're here with me anyway. Right.
Yeah.
And that's all you want from social media is the friends, your tribe, your community. You don't want the haters anyway. Are they going to voice up? Sure. I mean, it's like we have to deal with them all the time. They're out there. But they're out there because they're intimidated by you. Haters are intimidated by you. I
get some of the meanest things. And I always say, for me, because so many people are like, it's so crazy that you post other lawyers' stuff. And I'm like, why? For me, like, I've always lived in this notion, I'm never going to compete with another woman, and I'm never going to compete with somebody else. The only person I compete with is the person I was yesterday. I truly believe in collaboration over competition in every aspect. And for me, there's enough food to go around that I'm okay with it. And if there's not enough seats at the table, then that's not the table for me. That's not the place I want to sit at.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
And you're beautiful. I mean,
thank you. I appreciate that so much. It is. It's always, I always get asked this question, like, how are you so confident? And I'm asked it most of the time by conventionally attractive women, people who society views to be the most gorgeous women out there. And I'm always like, why do you think I wouldn't be confident? Like, why?
Right.
Let's switch this around and see why you're so shocked
interesting.
by it. Why are you so shocked by it? Because to me, I've never walked up to another person and been like, damn, why do you not hate yourself? Because that's what you're saying. Your words aren't saying that, but that's what you mean. You mean, why don't I hate me? Why don't I look in the mirror and see what I see? And I'm not like, darn it, God, I'm just not a size 2 today.
Yeah.
And I'm not.
That's a lot of jargon. That's a lot of jargon from generations. It really comes out. Who are you trying to be that you don't like being?
Yeah. I think that's the big thing.
Ploy.
The validation people go for each other. I've just never seeked validation in others. And I certainly don't today. I've just always said to myself that I am who I am and I love me. And people are always like, well, is that like a thing, or do you really love you? And I'm like, nah, I really wake up every day and I'm like, damn, I love me. Like, you know what I mean?
I love my life. I love this.
Right.
I woke up. This is great.
You wake up positive. And I say to my fiance all the time, I'm just like, damn, you're so lucky. Like, because I'm just so great.
Thank you.
And I'm like, you should wake up the same way and feel the same way about yourself. You should wake up and say, damn, this person's so lucky to be in my orbit. And I truly believe that. And I truly think everyone should feel that way, right? Like, you should love yourself enough to be able to say like things like that and feel like that. You know what I mean? There's a different levels between, people often say to people that aren't conventional that they're cocky. They use that different narrative. And it's like, people will blur the lines of cocky and confident. And it usually happens when you don't fit their narrative, right? I'm not cocky by any means. I'm confident in who I am. I
Yeah.
love me. And
Yeah.
I think to myself every day, I've worked hard to be where I'm at. I've had amazing things occur in my life, devastating things that occur in my life that have all made me feel this way. But at the end of the day, confidence is a decision that you make. It is never going to change. You can be the most conventionally skinny, pretty, blonde, whatever. And if you don't like you and you don't love yourself and you still seeking validation in others, it's not going to matter. You're still going to wake up every day hating yourself.
Yeah. And finding flaws and trying to get people to, But I want to zone in on that one thing you said, which is really powerful. And it comes with the self-love. With the self-love comes confidence. With the confidence comes the awareness and gratitude that you have for everything in your life. Because like you say, you worked really hard at it. Being your authentic self, it means you're super vulnerable. And being super vulnerable takes strength. And going back to that self-love. But with that, the flip side, the fuel, the gasoline that's on that is you will not be taken for granted. That is a bar held. You will not be taken for granted. You will not have people in your life that are taking away from this or taking it for granted. Because,
100%.
Go try and find it elsewhere. Go ahead.
You won't.
I dare you. Good luck.
I say that to
and
my
if
fiance
you
all the
don't
time,
see
like,
how beautiful and lucky you are to be in this orbit, that's not cocky. Have some gratitude. And if you don't have gratitude, I don't want you in my world.
Yeah, 100%.
Simple.
I love that. I truly love that. People will take advantage of you unless you are firm and set boundaries. And boundaries is not a dirty word. It is a loving word. It is the most thing. It's the way that you can love yourself in the best way.
Yeah, it really defines who you are. I am not someone who will tolerate this. I am not someone who appreciates this. Those are the boundaries that express who you are authentically. This is the fun part. I get to just look at you because you're so beautiful and I love it. I love the confidence. I love the joy, the life that just comes blasting across the monitor. You are taking this to the runway.
I am.
And where did this dream come from? Because, wow.
So I've always loved pictures. I've always loved getting people taking pictures of me. I've always loved fashion. You know, those have just always been a huge passion for me. And for me, it all started in September and this September. And
Awesome.
I made a thread, a company made a thread, Crusades of Curves, made a thread and was like, hey, we're looking for models in Philly. And I wrote back to the person and I said, hey, I'm not a formal model. I'd love to be considered. And the owner of it, Mallory, said, yeah, we love to build, find new people, send me a walking video. And I remember the second she sent that to me, I said to my assistant, I said, film me walking down the hallway at work right now. I'm going to walk around. I have heels on anyway. Just film me and I'm going to send it to her. And the second she asked for it, the second I sent it to her. And she was like, that's it. You're booked. And I did my first runway. And I remember being like, shut up. I am walking a runway with real models. And I remember being around all of the models and they were all great. Crusades of Curves is an amazing, amazing thing. And it really was a dream come true. Like I remember I used the Hillary Duff, This Is What Dreams Are Made Of song when I got to do it. Cause I mean, there is a level of confidence that comes with those girls, right? And I always said, God, I eat this up. I love this. Like, why am I not doing it? And I got to a point in my life when I saw that poster, I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to ask for it. I'm going to take it. I'm going to see what people are willing to give me. And since then, I've done some content shoots for other companies. And it's really been amazing. It really has. I really love it. I'm trying. My goal is to walk at least 2 New York runway shows for New York Fashion Week.
Lord.
We shall see. I've put it out in the universe and I have put it out on Threads because Threads is amazing.
Yeah. Yes.
And we'll see what happens. I want people to know that confidence comes in all shapes and sizes. Being Latina comes in all shapes and sizes. And you can love yourself and you can give it to the world. You can let the whole world eat it up.
And just so you know, this podcast is notorious. I'm going to call it out. It is notorious for manifesting and making it happen.
I hope so.
Manifestation has gone out on these airwaves, specifically on this podcast, and it has happened within months.
I love it. Hit me up, guys, because I am willing and ready to walk your runway. I am 5'2".
You are not.
I am.
Oh my gosh. This is like Ashley Rose. Ashley Rose was on, she's an actress. She was on a few weeks ago from The Burden of Nine Lives. And she said she was 5'2". And I'm like, you are not. I thought she was like 6 feet because she embodies this energy and this, I've got this attitude that people know that in 5'2".
5'2", 5'2", and a thick stature. Yeah, no, God knew what he was doing. He was like, we're going to make it thick and we're going to make it short. And yeah, no, I mean, I definitely hope it happens. I would be so grateful.
It will. It will. I know it's going to. We're putting it out there and it happens. And there's a lot of New York peeps. And so how are you now? You've gone way out there on your dream line. How are you reflecting back on your Peruvian heritage?
So I've met some amazing Peruvian girls in New York. It's so funny. I went to an event at the Good Old Girls Club, which is like a club out of New York, kind of like a boys club, but for women.
I love it.
And I think their slogan is like, our Rolodex is your Rolodex. It's very cool. They did an event with Shopify and it was like female founders pitching. This girl came up to me. Her name was Christina. And she goes, I'm Peruvian. I said, I'm Peruvian. And she starts talking in Spanish. And I was like, I don't speak Spanish. And then she was like, wait, have you ever had Peruvian food? And I was like, no, I'm adopted. And honestly, I've hung out with her probably like once a week since then. And that was like, she's brought me to amazing Peruvian restaurants. I tried pisco sour for the first time.
Yeah.
It's been amazing. We went to other Latina events together. I got to meet tons of other Latinas. Like she introduced me to all these great people. So I've met a lot of Peruvians. I actually, the woman who made this is Peruvian. She's also adopted. Her name's Brooklyn.
Okay.
Just like hearing about Peru, hearing about people's adoption stories has been an amazing, amazing thing. I then started only looking for Peruvians. So I'm actually getting a tattoo of Peru by a Peruvian tattoo artist. Oh. And I'm so excited. And it's just been, it's been an amazing thing. The Peruvian culture is gorgeous. It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Getting to hear about it, getting to hear how community is community and that people are willing to do anything for their families. It's something that I've always looked for. Ride or die has always been a mentality that I've tried so hard to find in people and I haven't found. And I have found it in, you know, the Latina community and specifically Peruvians. It's really been great. And I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. I love that. See, I'm biased, but Awanas, they're the best. I mean, we're biased. Yes. Latinos are awesome, but we go a little in, we feel a little more when it comes to our own heritage. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But they're super, super kind, super silly, super just will take you in. They don't care. It's all the same. Doesn't matter. They're all the same. And then they cook. Oh my God, amazing food.
The food is phenomenal.
We're #1 chefs in the world. Hello.
I never had steak before. And I had the traditional meal with the steak and the onions and the peppers. And I was like,
Lomo.
What?
Yeah.
I was like, I never had steak.
Saltado.
Why have I not had this? And I was like, I want this brown sauce to like bottle it and eat it for the rest of my life. And I was eating that with like I think the rice. And I was with my Peruvian friend and she was like, see, you probably always loved rice. That's your Peruvian. And I was like, what? I was like, that's so crazy. And it's funny because now that we talk and we see each other all the time, she's like, these little nuances that we both have.
Yes.
She's like, no, that's just because you're Peruvian. And I'm
Thank you.
What?
Thank you. Yeah. That sass. We're going to own that. That's Peruana. Sass, like, I don't care what you think. Oh, I'm going to break down that door anyway. Just saying. That's where it comes from. But then, the love and the silliness and the total, I will go out there for you. Totally. Call me at 2 a.m. I get it. Just call me. Having a bad night, call me. You're in a bad moment, call me. Like, yeah, that's just the way we roll. But then, and excuse me, but Peru does have the most population of indigenous tribes still. Now that you've come full circle in your life of, okay, this is what I felt and this is what I went after and I found it. But what do you have out there still? What do you see as, I hope this is going to happen? Or I think I'd like to experience this. What's a future?
It's mostly big and so I love doing the social media stuff. I truly do. I'd love to get more involved in that, get more businesses involved in that, get to travel more and go to more Latina events. I'd love to be able to do that. For me, a future just looks like getting as close as I can into my community and building them up in the same breath. People always say to me, like, how do you juggle it all with like being a lawyer? And I'm like, my boss probably would hate it. And it's literally like, you're not at the office enough. What are you doing? I'm building a community. I am doing a thing. Like it is, it's not like I'm out there twiddling my thumbs. I'm doing work. And I think for me, getting to a place with my legal experience where I can help more of my people.
Exactly.
That's
I was going to say
thing.
that when you said that about your boss wondering, what are you doing? You're making it aware for an entire population of people that one, there are Latina lawyers out there and Latino lawyers too, who are there for you and will understand where you're coming from and will understand and have the empathy of your hesitation, your vulnerability, wanting to protect you because they know. That's the thing, when you walk in someone's shoes, you know what to look out for. Like when you said back in, when you were working in family court, how people felt safe with you. That is something Latina. That is something, that empathetic way of just living yourself out loud. The empathy is really huge that you don't find typically. So yes, walk into a room like a white man, plus just to scatter all the haters, and then your Latina comes full force behind it because they need it. We need that. That is something you will not find outside of the Latina community. So.
Absolutely. I've also had some amazing white men that have mentored me too. So like, I have to do what I can for my people. Everyone else is doing what they can for their people. And
has benefited by that.
Right. So it's our turn. It's our turn.
Right.
And in my mind, it's like, I'm sorry if that makes some people upset, but it's our turn because we need it right now.
The power. They don't like letting go of power. You know, it's not a power they earn. They got handed it. And and everything's structured for it. So it's like, we don't hate on it. We're just like, move over. We're coming through.
We're like, give us what we are due. And let us make our own thing. Let us help each other. Let's not divide. I mean, that's the huge thing about the Am I Latina Enough? Stop playing into that narrative. Stop fighting one another. We can't hate our own community because a lot of other people hate us. So we have to stop doing that and start saying, I don't care how you define yourself as being Latina. If you're Latino, you're one of us. It doesn't matter either way.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for just bringing that closure to it. And the way they have the power over you is by splitting you up. Divide and conquer, right? Unified, we're unstoppable. Right. We're trouble. Individually, we're trouble. But unified, we're unstoppable. So just lean in.
That's the big thing about it. Confidence is infectious. People want to be around you. You know what I mean? Like when there's a light about somebody, everyone wants to be near it. Everyone. And you'll find the people that aren't trying to burn it out, but are just trying to get lit too. And that's fine. I'm willing to light every candle.
Yes. And you do. Honestly, you do. One last question. When you've gone through already a young life so dedicated to finding community, creating community, supporting the community you've created, what are you hoping if you were to walk through a portal into a completely different universe? What does that universe look like for you?
Peace. I think grace, love. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing for me is that there's so much hate in this world. And there really doesn't have to be. Like, you truly can exist in a world where there is just light. And if we all saw that and we all cared and we all wanted that, then that would be my dream, right? Is I just want everyone to love themselves the way that, I always say this to my friends, I want you to love yourself the way that your best friend loves you. And I think that that's what I want for the world. Everyone love each other like your best friend.
Oh, manifesting, making that happen. That's so beautiful. Oh, thank you so much. So tell us again, how can people reach out to you? What do you enjoy most on platforms for them to have communication with you? Because everyone's going to want a piece of this. And if you're not fully enjoying it in real life, or soon to be New York.
Soon to be New York, that's the hope. That's the goal.
It's going to happen.
I would say always reach out to me on Instagram. I do read every single DM. That's my biggest platform. I am on TikTok, but I don't use it very often. Threads is also a great way to get a hold of me.
Yeah.
I'm more than willing to go somewhere. I'm more than willing to travel. I go to New York all the time. I'm going to events in New Orleans and California and in Texas. When I say I'm going to show up, I mean that I back you. I mean it. I'll
Nice.
show up. I'll show up to your event. I'll show up to your opening. I'll show up to your pop-up. I want to see everyone succeed. So reach out to me. Don't hesitate. And I'm exactly who I am on this as I am in real life. I promise.
There it is. Send her a shout out. Give a DM. She will answer. Heather Reese, thank you so much. One, for showing us how to walk out in the world confidently and with self-love. And two, for bringing so much joy behind it. It's really a power pack. I really appreciate you sharing with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I know it's so nice talking with you. I really do appreciate it. I really do.
Heather Reese, Peruana, lawyer, Latina advocate, and plus-size runway model, reinforcing your courage and power in this new year. I mean, wow. For all you people out in Philly and New York, count your blessings in knowing Heather is so near you. Not that that's going to hold her back. She will travel to wherever you are. And for all Latina businesses out there, reach out to Heather on Instagram at Heather_RXOXO to have her showcase your product and services as she continues to support the comunidad. Plus, she is the perfect example of why we need our representation in every field to meet the needs and hold safe the populations being threatened and dismissed by the old guard. Out with the old and in with the new, amigas. And with January fueling you with ways to care for yourself, remind you of your power, and inspire you to act, we now head into February with the dawn of the Lunar New Year tomorrow, the year of the snake. It is time to shed that which doesn't allow you to grow. Leave behind the burdens that weigh heavy on you and transform into the next version of who you are, loving every moment of it and loving yourself. Join us next week to hear our lineup for February with the 3 women that are set to inspire you in growth and possibility. From their everyday life to their professions, they show you how to find a new path that feeds your truth, frees you from the stereotype you've been raised in, and gives you the steps on how to discover it for yourself. This is your year to stand strong, love who you are, love where you're at, and know that you are not alone. Now more than ever, communities are gathering, people are open and embracing, to everyone leaning in to the comunidad. Thank you for supporting this podcast and the space we hold for Latinas by subscribing to us on your favorite streaming platform like Spotify and Apple, listening for free on our website at lifelinks.com, that's life, LNXX.com, and following us on Instagram at Encuentras Your Voice. Now more than ever, step into your truth. Ciao. We love that you have subscribed to this podcast and continue to champion women who understand the life of all things Latina. Be sure to follow and subscribe to the Encuentras Your Voice podcast so you don't miss a single episode. They will automatically drop into your listening device each week, and we'd really appreciate if you take a moment to add to the reviews that we already have. Tell us what you like, tell us what you're hoping to hear, and we will get there. Share this with your friends and family to help us grow our comunidad, and keep following us on our social media to Encuentras Your Voice. We are so grateful to you for helping us grow this community and would love to learn of all the amazing Latinas who you know are creating the world we thrive in. So reach out to me on social media at Encuentras Your Voice, and let's keep leaning into our authenticity in pride. Help us make Encuentras Your Voice the place where you are 100% represented.